Hi there, I'm Becky Hammond, founder and strengths maven over at Isogo and isogostrong.com. Welcome to Isogo TV, the video and audio podcast where we are fueling marriage connection, parenting grace, and work energy by focusing in on your strengths instead of fixating on your weakness. Today, you are joining us for episode 75, and we are in the middle of our Isogo TV interview series. I hope that you have been or will join us for all of these interviews, because by talking to leaders, coaches, parents, spouses, regular people, they are bringing alive the life-changing stories that have been fueled by their unique and brilliant strengths in their work or their marriages or their parenting. Today's guest is Jamie Librot. Jamie is the Director of Talent Management for Librot, a global sustainable food packaging manufacturer. In this role, she manages employee engagement, training, succession planning, and performance management for over 2,000 employees worldwide. Prior to joining Librot, Jamie was a consultant with Gallup for 12 years. During that time, she launched Gallup's certified coach program and, from my perspective, served as one of the most incredible and accessible resources for all 6,000 coaches who were certified during her tenure. At the same time, and watch out, Achiever competition, Jamie was Gallup's top seller of StrengthsFinder training and consulting, selling more than $12 million over several years. Jamie lives in the New York City area with her husband and daughters, and she's an avid traveler and yoga enthusiast. Today in this interview, she opens up and she shares of some of the deepest moments in her life. I mean, she really goes there with us. And it's such a breath of fresh air in a world that holds up pretenses instead of the real and the messy. I'm excited for you to hear her story and how it might influence your own. So let's dive into this conversation with Jamie. All right, well, hi there, Jamie. And I'm so excited to
Becky.
get to chat today. Hi. You, from where I just learned you just moved, Westfield, New Jersey, and me here outside of the DC area. And it was an honor to last year be able to get to not only call you a colleague, but also move into calling you a friend. We got to meet up in the Upper West Side a couple times. You got to introduce me to a few of your favorite restaurants, which, you know, were kind of life-changing. So it's just a privilege to be able to have you here and share your story of how strengths impacted your life with people who are listening here today.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let's just start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself. What's your family like? What do you do for work? And we'll go from there.
Sure. Absolutely. So I'm the Director of Talent Management for a company called Librot. And although you've never heard of us, you've heard of all of our clients. So if you've ever gotten a bento box at Starbucks, that is some of the compostable food packaging that we make.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah. So that's what we do. So globally, we make recycled and compostable food packaging for some of the largest food chains and food distributors. And it's really exciting. And my role focuses on employee engagement, training and development, succession planning, and performance management systems. And so right now I've been traveling all over the world to all of our different plants to start this employee engagement program, which is very strengths-based. And we're about to launch a 3-year leadership training institute that will all use StrengthsFinder as well.
Oh my gosh. I get goosebumps when I hear about your role, because I just feel like, hello, could it be any more perfect? I mean, I didn't even know about like the heart alignment as well with something that you truly care about, but oh man, the role is just amazing.
No, it's true. As we were saying, by the year 2050, there's going to be more plastic than fish in the ocean. So we have a recycling business. We are really working hard to change that and not only make the earth a better place, but make our workplace a better place for our 2,500 employees.
Wow.
So it's really very positive. I get to help people in so many different ways every day. And I love getting to meet people from different places in the world and eat the food in different parts of the world
I
and
mean,
experience
that is
cultures.
a definite.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your family. Who do you got
Yes.
in your life?
Yes. So my husband, who is the person who introduced me to strength in the first place, his company, his former company was what Gallup calls a full path client. So they did everything Gallup from strength to selection. And my husband gave me the Gallup book, First Break All the Rules, and Now Discover Your Strengths. And it just really resonated. So before Sabred, I worked for Gallup for 12 years because of that book. And then I have my two daughters. Lucy is 7 and Lydia is 4. They have incredibly different personalities. It's absolutely remarkable how different two kids from the same parents could be. But we talent spot, and my husband knows more about strengths than I do. So between the two of us, we're constantly having conversations about our marriage and our just relationship as two partners, and the strength spotting that we see in our kids. He and I both have woo, so our kids, are very outgoing. They absolutely have woo, without a doubt. My favorite woo story about my older one, we took her to Disney 4 years ago, and she looked around and she started to cry. And we said, Lucy, you're at Disney World. This is the happiest place in the world. Why are you crying? And she looked around. She goes, Mommy, how am I going to meet all of these friends?
Oh, my word. That is just awesome.
Yes. So I said, don't worry. There's going to be very long lines. You'll have hours and hours to talk to all of the kids. And then, we'll go on the rides in between that.
Oh, my goodness. Now, if everyone could approach Disneyland like that, there would be a lot less disgruntled people.
I know. I think she liked the lines just as much as the ride. So.
Oh man, that is a good woo story, and that's a really great example of spotting from talent spotting.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Well, as we get to know you a little bit more, what is something that comes to mind when you think of something that you're most proud of recently?
Well, over the weekend, I bought a car all by myself. Wow. And, I read all of these reports that said that you should bring a man with you because women get there's a pink tax where women are charged $1,000 more. But I did my homework. I had a strategy and I got a ridiculously good rate all by myself, and I think I'm more excited about that than the car.
And I have this car.
Yes. right. Then there's a car and all this, and not only that, but I felt like it was a real win-win. The people working there seemed really happy with the deal, and I looked at all the websites, and I know I got $7,000 less than the average that people were paying in my area. So somehow, they didn't walk away feeling ripped off. I walked away feeling like I got everything I wanted. So
it's like you said, win-win. And I mean, I have a preview of your strengths. It's just like that story is like all about your strengths, achiever, competition, woo, like everyone's okay, but yet I got what I needed and I compared to all these other people.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I feel like that's where my competition has evolved over the years. It's evolved to the place where I still want to win, but I don't want anyone to feel like they lost.
That's good.
And that's where
a mature use.
Competition mixed, yes, competition mixed with woo and my number 6 positivity. That's where it all comes in. And it's even gotten to the place where when we're doing family board game night, or not with the kids. The kids, I'm not as competitive-ish, but like when we're playing board games with our friends. If it gets to the point where we're slaughtering everyone and we're definitely going to win, then I might pull back. It's like just knowing I'm going to win. That's all I need. Then I don't want people to lose by so much that they're not going to want to play with me anymore.
How compassionate.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, let's dive into just kind of your experience. You know, we've already actually heard how you live and
Sure.
breathe the strengths
Yes.
language, but not just the language, the perspective too, of like, there are positive things about everyone, and we are going to do our best work when we get into those positive things. But let's think back to before you were living and breathing this life, before your husband brought this home and said, this is really interesting, you got to try this. When you first came across the strengths concept, before you did, what problems were you experiencing, or what challenges were you having, and what were you thinking about most in your life at the time?
Sure, absolutely. So I have empathy in my bottom strengths, and I was always aware of that I can't really read people as well as I would really like to. That doesn't mean I have low sympathy. I really care about people. And if I knew they were sad, I would want to hug them and comfort them. I just don't know that they're sad unless, with my high focus and being a third generation New Yorker, I'm very direct and I'm used to people being really explicit. So I can't read body language. And I didn't really have a word for it. And I thought I could fix that in myself. So I was taking every emotional intelligence class and reading every book I could, trying to memorize body language. And it was really, the more I tried, the more frustrated I would get. And the day I started working at Gallup, of course, you start by taking StrengthsFinder and getting a coaching call. And my strengths coach for my 12 years at Gallup was Jody Van Osdale, who's possibly the greatest strengths coach in the entire world. And she said, okay, let's take a look at your full 34. She saw I had achiever number 1. And let's look at your bottom 5. I was like, great idea. Let's start with my weaknesses. Fix me. And she's like, no, you don't get it. And she said it much nicer. I'm going to paraphrase. But she's like, I want you to look at your bottom strengths because I want you to release those. She said, any class that you're taking that relates to getting better in those areas, I want you to cancel all of them.
Wow.
And I was just stunned. She's like, I said, I'm in 3 emotional intelligence classes to fix my empathy. Maybe I should do 4. She's like, no, cancel them all. And at first I was like, like shaking, like, what are you talking about? But she's like, I don't want you to spend another minute trying to be someone you aren't. She said, instead, I want you to work harder than you've ever worked in your life for your top 5, not your bottom 5. And I feel like I physically just like,
wow.
Like I remember where I was sitting in that moment. I was sitting in my hotel room in Omaha, Nebraska, and I just remember just letting all of this attention go.
Wow.
I said, I'm not going to try to have better empathy. I said, okay, but then what do I do? Do I just ignore it? And she said, of course not. Like, you still have to. Said, you need to have conversations with people who are close to you and say, look, I'm always going to care what you think. I just won't know. So unless you are actually crying, I will not know you are sad. But, I said, okay, so I'll just tell people to be direct. She said, no, other people aren't direct like you are. So you have to ask them, like, what is a comfortable way for you to give me feedback on your feelings? And so that changed everything in my life.
Wow. You were like, yeah, let's look at my bottom. I want to see the things that I need to work on. I mean, obviously you hadn't quite wrapped your mind around the whole thing yet, right? What doubts
definitely didn't get it.
Concerns did you have when she kind of said, don't work on these things?
Because I had been taught that you have to be good at everything.
Yeah.
Everyone has to be good at everything. To get into a great school, you have to be well-rounded. And being an achiever, I want to be good at everything. Yeah. And working on my weaknesses had gotten me to where I was. But when I really examined it, it really wasn't. It was really working on my strengths, working on becoming a better woo, working on really applying my competition in productive ways, learning how to be even more focused. Those were the things that were getting me to any accomplishments that I was achieving.
Wow. So you took the assessment, you started working at Gallup, you got some coaching, which sounds like that was key. And what comes to mind when you think of kind of some of the experiences that happened next, when you realize that now that you know your strengths, you were approaching things differently? What did different look like to you?
Yeah, well, I really do have that conversation with people whenever I've especially when I just started a new job at Sabre in January.
Yeah.
As I was getting to know people, I had that conversation with everyone. And I think people really appreciated that and they thought it was very just vulnerable to say, like, hey, right off the bat, here's something I'm not good at. And to say, like, I care about having a great relationship with you. I care about your feelings. So it's really avoided a lot of, I'm getting a lot closer to people than I used to get. And I think that this new approach has really helped that.
Wow.
And another approach that has helped that is just softening my woo. So I used to think there's this great poem by Ella Wheeler Wilcox, laugh in the world laughs with you, smile or cry and you're all alone. And that was my previous motto with my woo. It was very much like, oh, just use your positivity, be happy all the time and people will like you. And then in grad school, I got this feedback where we were doing assessments and we had to give everyone just very direct feedback. And someone who I'd been going to grad school with for years said, I feel like it's hard to know who you are, that I don't know you. Like, I know you're hard to get to know. And that stabbed me more sharply than any critical feedback I'd ever gotten.
Wow.
To me, it was sort of saying, you have no personality. Like, you are just presenting this Susie Sunshine, very fake, like, and I'd gotten that before. There was a fraternity in college who called me the Ice Princess, which as far as names go, you could get a much worse name.
There's some.
But no, that's always the critical feedback I'd gotten about my personality was a coldness. And what that really was just a fear of being vulnerable, letting anyone see anything sad. And this was really tested when we had just tragedy strike in my family. In 1 year, I lost my mother and we lost our second daughter. She was stillborn at full term. And when people said, is anything wrong? We're like, oh, we're fine. Fake smile, we're fine. And people are like, oh, really? Okay. Because we just didn't want to be sad. And we went to a support group where parents had lost children. And there were so many parents who they would not be friends with anyone who hadn't been through a tragedy. And they just really wanted to dwell in that place. So I think we just pushed away from anything that was sad and just pretended everything was fine. And that actually alienated friends. So here, high focus, my goal was to get closer to people and, not pull them into our sadness, but it actually pushed them away.
Wow.
And finally, I went to this conference and, just started, someone said something that triggered me, and my grad school friends were there, and they had been saying all along, are you okay? Are you okay? What can we do? What can we do? And I was like, I'm fine. This is a great learning experience. Things happen for a reason.
Wow.
And finally I got triggered and I just started crying in front of them. And I do not cry in front of people. And they just held me so tight. And they were like, finally, we're seeing how you really feel. And I was like, really? I'm sad and you guys are still going to be my friends? And it was such a great learning moment for me. And I think it was such a turning point where I just started to be more authentic and be myself. And the less I try to woo, the more I actually woo. The more I'm myself and just show people my silliness and show them the flaws and, aren't afraid to look ridiculous. And the more I seem to win people over. So I'm so glad I had that experience before. Like yesterday, I was giving a workshop and people asked me about my yoga. And they said, do you really? Because in my intro, I said, I love doing yoga. And they said, okay, prove it. And up on stage in all of my business clothes, I did this really silly down dog chaturanga, and it was just so silly. I fell on my face, and they loved it. It was great.
Aww.
So I think I really learned to laugh at myself and be a lot more genuine through through years and years of just getting this feedback of just not being real and not being genuine. And I think we're in the age of authenticity.
Yeah.
Right now. So I think it's good that I woke up at this point because people are, less less than ever are they tolerant of people just putting up a front.
Yeah.
So
I really appreciate you sharing that story. I know that it's close to your heart, and I do also know that those are the types of things. I mean, as you say, I haven't heard the age of authenticity, but those are the things, by sharing those, even in a venue like this, that people say, oh, wow, I can relate to that. I can relate to you because I've had tragedy in my life as well. And, you know, this was my reaction, and it was similar in this way and different in this way. And, you know, when you think about your strengths as you were kind of processing through your reaction to the tragedies that had happened in your life, and you talked about your woo. So what do you do differently now because you know, because you can control your woo, or you know what volumes are appropriate? Like, what did that look like to you, practically speaking, when you were trying to kind of build that authenticity through your woo?
Yeah. I remember when I first started at Gallup, gosh, it must be 12, 13 years ago now. And I was mentoring a young woman, and I was telling her like all the strategy that I put into what I wear and how it's so calculated and the look. And she just stepped back. She's like, whoa, like this is, she's like, I'm young, I'm inexperienced, but I'm telling you, this sounds like too much. Like, you're way overthinking this. And I was like, okay, what do you know? Like, you're 20 years old. But, you know, she was absolutely right that now I just say, okay, I don't think as much about my audience. I just think about what's going to make me feel confident, what's going to make me feel comfortable. Because the more confidence and comfort I bring bring that energy into a room, then the audience feels that. And I'm bringing them that energy instead of the strategy and the corporate look, et cetera.
Yeah. And so was that like, do you feel like that is a dial down, dial up of your strengths, that you kind of came to that place, or how did that fit in?
Yeah, I think I dialed down my competition and dialed up the woo.
And so like, you feel like you're dialing up your woo and you've done that by allowing yourself to be yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And not only that, another mentor I had at Gallup is Dean Jones, who's still a great friend. And he was my boss for a period of time. And he would give me these awesome homework assignments where, I have so many influencing strengths, and then positivity is number 6. And he said, tell me how you use your positivity to influence people. And I was able to rattle off 16 different ways I do that. He said, okay, how to use your positivity to build relationships. And I had nothing.
Wow.
And he said, that's what I thought. He said, it's great. It's a great application of positivity, but you're missing out on the full richness of that strength. And I think that taught me the value of, because at first I had a problem with the strengths being bucketed into 4 groups.
Right.
Because like the whole point is we're not putting people in boxes. Right. That there's 33 million combinations of your top 5. But that, I think the value there is to look at where each of your strengths lies and say, am I using it that way? Because if not, there might be so much richness that I'm not accessing. So I think that just thinking, the homework he gave me was talk to people who have positivity and don't have any influencing strengths in their top 5. Just talk to them about how they're using it. And so now this whole feeling of, I'm just going to wear what I feel confident in, what makes me feel comfortable. And so I could be the happiest naturally version of the naturally happy version of myself, and bring that energy, not to influence anyone, just to, be the most positive, true version of myself. Yeah. Just to show up and be bright. Then that ended up actually strengthening my woo, because people can sense that I'm just comfortable and I'm in my own skin. And it's really been a journey, but I see such a difference even in the interviews that I do now versus the ones that I did 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I just so much more of myself and my personality in it.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or
I know.
ugly,
well,
either way.
It's kind of like, that's here I am. Take it as it is.
Yeah.
And then because you're
Exactly.
that way, you end up winning them over. Like you said, even better.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Drawing from your own personal experience, kind of final question here, what encouragement or advice would you leave for somebody or give someone who can resonate with your pre-strengths world problem? So, you described like just really feeling like you needed a compulsion to work on the things that you knew didn't come naturally to you. And then kind of to this whole journey that you have beautifully described about, coming to a place where you are truly authentically yourself. What encouragement or advice would you give to someone who can resonate with those pre-strengths problems that you were wrestling through?
Sure. The advice I would give them is to think about the successes that they've had in their life and really soul search and say, did this come from working on my weaknesses, or was this really an early manifestation of my strength? And I think there's so many executives I met with while I was at Gallup who told me that they got to where they got because they worked on their weaknesses. And when I challenged that and they really thought about it, they realized that wasn't the case at all.
Wow.
They were just working on the dark side of their strengths and really refining their strengths and pulling the best out of getting the most out of each strength. So I would challenge people who are really weakness focused to do that and think through their successes and figure out who did they partner with, what talents did they rely on, what techniques did they use, and line that up with their strengths report.
Cool. That is awesome. Not only practical, but inspiring advice to look back on the things that we've done well and figure out, what were we working on when we we're doing well. So, all right. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Jamie. I feel like we could definitely keep talking forever. I know you have a million stories.
Right.
How it's not only the strengths perspective has not only impacted you and your work, but your family and your husband and your relationship and your kids and all those things. So maybe there'll be a chance sometime for us to do this again. But
anytime, Becky. Yeah.
Until then, I am glad that people got to know you and the authentic Jamie that you are today. I love that your strengths help you move on that journey. I know it'll be an encouragement to people out there. So see you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Right, bye. Isn't Jamie's story so authentic and real? It really challenged me to re-examine the person that I bring into each situation I encounter, whether with friends, family, or in my work role. And I hope that it does the same for you. You can connect with Jamie Librot over on LinkedIn. And you can also get that link over in the show notes at isogostrong.com/IsogoTV. Ultimately, my dream would be to see thriving marriages, families, and workplaces across the world. By orienting our minds toward our strengths, I know that we can get there, just like Jamie is doing. So I'd love to ask you to share Isogo TV, the video or the audio version, with your own circles on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or right there in your home or your office. And if you like this Isogo TV interview in particular, please leave a 5-star review over at iTunes. It not only means a lot to me, but it also helps others find this podcast resource too. I'm glad that you were here today to hear how others have fueled significant changes in their lives by focusing in on their strengths. And I hope you join me for more next time on Isogo TV.